Invade a perp. Yeah, they be up the SERP, I be up the Gary. Yeah, the haters act so scary. I'm a real ass dude. I don't ever mean to be rude. It's just time for that interlude. Smoked out, gotta set the mood. I be acting kinda stingy when it comes to sharing flour. I be on blue power, serving up some of that sour. Yeah, these haters about to cower. These strains Maleficent. I've been barely covering my rent. Yeah, there's drama in my life. It been causing me some strife. Some days I just wish I. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the W.W.A.S.P podcast for another episode. I just want to thank a few people. Few people have donated within the past few months, so thank you for that. If you want to donate, then the link is in the description, just so you know, just a quick caveat for that. Thank you to Jeneen Miller for being my Patreon member. Really appreciate it. Really means the world. And with that being said, I want to go ahead and do a moment of silence for the person still suffering with intrusive thoughts, addiction, anything like that. So in the count of three, I'm going to do a moment of silence. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you for that. And without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce my guest for the day. Go ahead and introduce yourself and where you went and what years.
Hey, I'm Megan Matters. I went to New Creation Boarding School in Richmond, Indiana in 2008.
Okay, and were you transported or did your parents bring you there?
Uh, my parents took me there, um, essentially kidnapped, for lack of a better term.
Okay, and what was going on like prior to you being sent there? Do you know why you were sent there? Like, what was going on?
Kind of. So I've gotten a few different stories from my parents over the years, but the basic gist of it was our family was not great. Like, we didn't like each other at all. So there was a lot of home stuff going on. I was suffering from an eating disorder when I was 15, 16. Um, and around that same time, I got my first like actual boyfriend in high school. And they hated him. My parents did. So they blamed him for my eating disorder. And they started really restricting us being together. So being teenagers, we snuck around. Um, and the more that they got restrictive, the more we snuck around. So um, eventually, it just kind of all blew up to where I told them I was going to get emancipated when I was 17, and then a week later, I was at boarding school.
Okay. And the school you went to, was it religious? Was it point and level based, or was it what was like the overall structure of the program you were at?
Yeah, it was religious based. It was through a church that's still currently in Richmond. The school's not there anymore, but yeah.
Okay. And what do you remember about like your first days there, or like your first day?
It's kind of blurry, like a lot of the parts of it is. Um, I remember, so we had to stay in a hotel the night before, and then that morning, my parents took me there, and I was refusing to get out of the car. So one of the workers came in and put her head through the car window and was telling me that I was hurting my family and I didn't love anybody because I wouldn't get out of the car and go be with them. Um, and yes, that was my first impression. And then they brought in one of the higher level students to take my things to my room, is what they told us, while we did intake stuff. And she basically went through all of my things that I had packed and brought with me, took all of it away, and it was replaced with the pre-approved stuff that my parents had brought. There wasn't any like some of the other places where the intake's more invasive and they do like the squat and cough and all of that. We didn't have anything like that so much. Um, but yeah, we got checked in and then my parents left and I was with that higher level student and kind of learned the ropes from her.
Okay. And how did you like graduate, or like was there a way to graduate from this school, or like what were you supposed to be doing while you were there? You know, like.
Yeah, there was technically a way to graduate. I don't really know if anybody ever did. They made it really hard to progress up the levels because everything was like a level system and a behavior level system within that. So you had to earn everything. Yeah, I was only there for a few months, and then my parents actually transferred me to a different place because they told them that I had a demon in me that wouldn't come out. So I'm just trying to think of like what other stuff they had there as far as graduating goes.
You just had to make it to a certain level then, essentially?
Yeah, so the whole point of the program was to like the way they word it in their handbook is they wanted to break you down to the point of being a newborn so that you could be rebuilt in a Christ-like way.
Interesting.
Yeah, the wording in the handbook was really disturbing. I found that a couple years ago, actually, when like Harris's thing came out and people started talking more openly about this stuff. And yeah, they were saying that like their goal was to make us more submissive to God instead of to ourselves and our own like human wants and desires. And yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, it's really interesting because that's one of the that's what they do in mind control.
Mm-hmm.
Is that stuff. They break you down and then they rebuild you, like that whole brainwashing thing. It's
Right.
very interesting that they worded it that way. Do you happen to have one of the manuals? Like, did you hold on to any?
I have a copy of it saved, yeah, on my computer. So
Yeah, that's very, very interesting that they would word it like that.
yeah.
Okay. So you said you got sent to another program. Was it another program after that that you got sent to, or where did you go?
So it was more of like a group home kind of setting where it was actually people with licenses to help kids.
Okay.
So there was like actual therapists, and it was a regulated program by the state. So that place wasn't as bad. It was kind of stupid because I was 17, I was almost 18, and most of the kids there were like 12.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the staff there just kind of let me do my thing for a few months until I got to be 18, and they were like, "Okay, have fun, good luck."
Okay, so did your parents come and get you from the first program? Did they tell you why they came and got you? Like,
No, actually, so I went home from there for Christmas break. They let us fly home, and I was home for maybe 2 days. And I had been resigned at this point that I was going to go back after Christmas break, and I was going to be there till I was 18. And so I had gotten used to that idea. And then around Christmas, my parents were like, "Oh no, you're not going back there. We're going to put you in this other place that's an hour away from my hometown, um, and you're going to go there until you're 18." So it was kind of like a different kind of a kidnapping feeling, like because I'd gotten used to the fact that I was going back. I had friends there, my stuff was there, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh wait, that changed. So
so they like pulled you on a home pass, pretty much.
pretty much, yeah.
Okay, all right. What level did you make it to when you were in the program?
I was on level 1 the whole time.
Okay.
Every time that I tried to get to level 2, I was told I was manipulative for asking for the book. Like you had to do these like workbooks to like justify why you should move up to the next level, like how you had grown in Christ and things like that. So
Yeah, that sounds like your form of seminars.
kind of, yeah.
You know, like
Hmm.
because for us we had to go through these like self improvement seminars. They
Hmm.
would do the same shit. They would break you down, and then they would have this release process, really release all of the tension out, and then they would rebuild you into the image they wanted you as. It's the same kind of shit.
Yeah, it seems to be like that with every program I've heard other kids talking about. So
Which is very, very crazy because, like I said, that's what they do with mind control. So,
hmm.
let's see. How was the food in the place you went? Was it
uh,
terrible? Was it decent? Like, was there stuff that you actually sort of look forward to? Like,
it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. Like it kind of reminds me of like normal public school lunches kind of a thing. Um, I know they like limited a lot of the main foods that we could have, but like at breakfast we could have cereal or toast like as much as we wanted. Or like at lunch and dinner we could have like PB&Js were an unlimited thing. So people would kind of gorge themselves on those things. Because it wasn't like where you could just have snacks throughout the day or anything like that. You just kind of got what you got. So
yeah,
a lot
you,
of us got real big when we were there.
yeah. So you ate like three meals a day, and essentially you'd have to eat. Could you get seconds on the food there?
Uh, Sometimes, but not too often.
Okay.
And then every once in a while, if you were what was called a super yes for the week, you'd get to go on an outing, and sometimes we would have food with that, or they would do like a cookout for us or something if we were that level.
Okay. Well, like, what were these outings? Like, where would they take you on these outings? Did you?
So I was a super. So that let me explain this a little bit. Like within the level system, they have like 1A, 2A, like A, B, and C for each level. And then each week they based your behavior on you were a super no, no, yes, or super yes. Um, the super yes kids were like the ones that followed all the rules and did what they were supposed to do. And they got rewarded with stuff. So I was on that the whole time I was there. And we would go like roller skating, or I think we had like a movie night on the dorm one night where everybody else had to go do something else, and we went and watched a movie and had popcorn. Um, I think we went to the dorm director's house once. Like she was buying a house and took us there to see all the work we were going to have to do on it for her, like for repainting and remodeling it. And they considered that like an outing.
What, did you guys actually end up working on the house? Because a lot of these places they do the child labor thing where they have the kids working and they don't pay them. Obviously, was
Yeah, I don't know if they ever went and worked on her house because I think that was like if they did, it was after I left.
yeah.
But I know like the child labor thing definitely was a big piece of it. Like we would clean the kitchens and like the dining halls in the church and stuff like that after meals. We were responsible for landscaping, cleaning the dorms, and I actually helped with repainting the dorms once that dorm director took over the program. Um, the dorms were like bright purple and lime green and just awful, gross colors. So she had us repaint it all to neutral.
Okay, interesting. Um, let's see. What was the hardest part about being in that program for you, and how did you deal with it?
That's a hard one. Um, the isolation, I think, was a big part of how much it sucked. We couldn't have contact with anyone really in the outside world at all. Our parents could call us, but my parents and I didn't get along, so that never really ended up well. Um, but there was also that like unknown part of it too. Like you don't know what's happening day to day. You have no control over anything, no say over anything, and um, like coming from a person with food issues, like control is a huge thing, and a huge trigger. So having no say over anything all the time was awful.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you deal with it in the program? Like, how did you like cope with it?
I kept my head down a lot. Like I made friends with a couple of people, but like I said, I was on like the top level behavior the whole time because I was not about to get in trouble for shit. But um, and then I just kind of focused on getting out and being 18 and not having to listen to anybody else tell me what to do anymore. And like the guy I had been seeing before I got sent away, I focused on him a lot too because we had plans for growing up and getting married and starting a family and all of that. So I really like kept that on my mind that there was something to look forward to after. Um, like I kept a journal where I actually wrote letters to him like every day about what was happening. And I gave that to him when I got out. So yeah, you just hold on to whatever you can. Like they don't give you a whole lot to have hope for, but
Yeah. Did you were you able to like write letters to the outside?
no,
Okay.
no. I think they allowed us to do it with specific family members that our parents approved. But I mean, I'm estranged from my whole family, so there was really nobody for me. So
Okay. Do you know if they had any sort of isolation isolation there, or like study hall? Like for us, they had like this place called study hall where if you acted up, you went there and you had to write like sentences or whatnot until you worked off the worksheets, or they'd put you in solitary confinement. Like, did they have anything that you know of there?
Yeah, they would put us on isolation. So I witnessed that a few times. They would have like these separate desks. It was kind of like study hall type of thing, where the girls on restriction would have to go sit in a room by themselves in like a little cubby and do their homework there or write Bible verses. Um, no one was allowed to talk to them or look at them. They couldn't sit with their regular table at lunch. And then they had to wear these awful dresses. I think the point of the dresses were that they were harder to run away in because they were like floor length muumuus. That were like navy blue polyester, just awful. We tried to burn mine and it didn't. It wouldn't burn. It just kind of melted. Was how gross they were. But um, yeah, so they would keep isolation girls wearing that, and then they would just have to be by themselves a lot.
Okay. 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 When you got out of the program, what happened after you got out of the program? Did you stay with the guy that you had been talking to before? Or?
So it's kind of a funny story. So yeah, went from the boarding school to the children's place, and then turned 18. Went home for like a week, and then he and I decided we were going to move out of state and finish high school by ourselves. So we did that, and it got really complicated. After coming out of there, like you're not equipped for life. So you don't realize like what you had just gone through. You don't understand that it has changed you as a person. And so like we started off great, everything was awesome, and then we realized both of us had a lot of trauma that we didn't know what to do with. So we did end up breaking up kind of off and on that year. Then we both moved back to our hometown, got back together for a little while, and then we were actually a couple months away from getting married, and we broke that off. Um, Went like 8 years without really talking a whole lot. I mean, we've been friends off and on over the years, but I actually ended up getting married to somebody else. Um, and then this last year, just got divorced for a lot of reasons. And then since my ex from high school and I had never really lost contact, we got back together. So we actually live together now, which is kind of fun. We're actually going to go to the Survivor prom together, which is super exciting because we didn't get our prom in high school. So
That's cool. Okay. What do you think the hardest part about like not being out of the program? What do you think you struggle with the most because of the program?
um,
Like you were saying, like about the trauma and like the trauma that you hadn't dealt with yet, and like maybe like relationships. Like, did you struggle with relationships or like relating to people?
oh yeah, like when I went back into like a normal high school for my senior year, like I just remember feeling out of place. Like I didn't relate to anybody, and they would like I would get frustrated with people because they would think that trivial things were huge deals, and I'm like, you guys don't even know. Like, yeah, I was also trying to support myself. I was homeless for a little while in high school that year, and going through all of that after all the trauma of being sent away, and you're like trying to be an adult and trying to figure your life out, and like no one's really helping you with that part of it. Like, don't get me wrong, I had a lot of like resources to find places to live and stuff, but the emotional side of it, you don't know enough to go to therapy, um, and you're so busy trying to survive and figure out how to be an adult that you don't understand the inner turmoil of that. Like you're just in survival mode the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then now as an adult, like being in therapy and trying to process all of that and realizing like how deep those experiences went, and like emotional regulation is difficult. being able to speak up for yourself or stand up for yourself, or even to know like what your feelings are or what you need. Like that through therapy, I found that's like one of my biggest things I struggle with now is just like someone will ask me what my feelings are and I'm like, I don't know. Will you tell me what I feel, please? Because I'm used to being told what I'm supposed to do and feel and think and not really be my own person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not really have like full self autonomy.
Yeah, well, I mean, every time that you express anything in those places, they tell you you're wrong. Like
Or
you're
tell you, right.
manipulative, you're playing them, or you're just a bad person. So it really invalidates who you are as a person all the time, like constantly.
Mm-hmm. Not to mention when they put you on silence, you know.
Right.
So
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad I never had to go through that, but yeah, those girls were miserable when they had to be on that.
yeah, it's horrible. Did you ever talk to your parents? Have you talked to your parents about what it was like in there, or tried to? And what? How are you with your parents now?
Well, I am estranged from my entire family,
Oh yeah, yeah.
extended
So,
family and everything. Um, uh, my mom was kind of the last one to stop talking to her about 2 years ago. Um, I when people started opening up more about their experiences at these places, and I realized like my story is not unique, sadly. Um, I tried to open up to my mom about it and tell her kind of, this is what these people are saying. I promise I haven't been lying all these years. I've been saying this stuff. Like I wasn't exaggerating it. I wasn't making it up. Like other people said the same things. And a lot of the time, like you would get that line of, oh, well, we did the best we could with what we had, or we were just trying to save your life, or, oh, if we had known it was that bad, we wouldn't have done it. And then they just want to brush it off like they're done talking about it.
like
Um,
dismissive.
yeah, because they don't want to admit that they did something wrong, at least in my case. I mean, I know there are a lot of families out there that have talked about it and like come to an understanding and they're okay now. But my parents have always been of the mindset that they can do no wrong. And they're going to justify any decision that they make, no matter what the consequences are. Um, and being estranged from them, that just makes them even more right that I'm the bad person. So it's interesting dynamic, but yeah,
Yeah.
what do you do?
Okay. Um, is there anything that you want to touch on with the second school that you went to? I know it wasn't as bad, but was there anything that happened there that you want to touch on?
Um, I mean, by the time I got there, I was kind of on autopilot, like just okay, these are the rules and I have to follow them if I want to not have a totally horrible experience. Um, I do remember fighting a lot with the staff about some stuff. Like it was always stupid little things like what clothes I wore. Like I'd wear a t-shirt that they thought was too revealing because I lived with 12-year-olds. And I'd get mad because I'm like, I'm 17. It has one open button. Like, what are you talking about? So um, that was always interesting to me. Like it's not really, a lot of these programs are not individualized. Like you're just another one in the group and you should react to everything the same and think the same and um, like have the same expectations no matter what you've been through. Um, and the education part of it too, in both places, like we got no education. Um, at the boarding school, it was like a Christian based computer program that we did.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it was self-paced and like so I was doing chemistry and calculus on a computer and I had no teachers. And if you didn't know how to do something or you couldn't figure it out, you would go and ask like the person that was in the classroom watching us or whatever. And they'd be like, yeah, we don't know how to do that either. So we'll Google it for you, but that's all we can do to help you. So you would
Yeah.
just take the test over and over and over again until you passed it because you learned all the wrong answers.
Yeah.
Um, and it was like that at the other facility too. Like it was very cookie cutter education and like you didn't really learn anything. The teacher we had for me, bless his heart, he was the sweetest man. He actually got me a laptop and like a CD-ROM of like more advanced, like higher like levels of high school stuff. Um, and he was trying to give me an opportunity to like actually learn something. And then I found out the laptop was able to access internet, and he didn't know that. So I spent a lot of my time on Facebook once I figured that out. Um, yeah. And a lot of the therapists in that place too, like, were there for a reason as troubled kids or whatever. So they didn't really want to hear what we had to say for therapy. Like, my parents ran the show, and what they said was truth, no matter what. Like, and the day that I got pulled out of there, I remember doing our like out exit interview, whatever, with the therapist I had been seeing there, and my mom looked at me and she's like, "To hell with you and your brother." And my therapist just looked shocked because she'd never heard my mom say anything like that before. And I was like, "I told you, this is what we do in our family." And by then, they can't really do anything about it. So it's just that reminder that you're powerless like the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember if they loaded you up with prescription medications or if they took you off prescriptions? First of all, were you on any prescriptions before you went to the program?
Yeah, so when I was hospitalized for my eating disorder when I was 16, the doctor at that hospital told me that he wanted me to take an antidepressant, and I didn't want to. Back then, I didn't know anything about it. So, and I remember him telling me like, "Well, it's your choice if you want to take it or not, but your parents said that if you don't take it, they're going to make you quit your jobs. You can't go out with your friends. You can't have extracurriculars. You can't drive your car anymore. Like, so basically you have no choice but to take it."
Yeah.
So I was on that for a while. And then that whole summer before I got sent away, it was like between hospital and being sent away. Um, and then when I got to the boarding school, like, they took me off my birth control, cold turkey, which was super painful and awful. And then they eventually took me off of the antidepressant too. Like, a lot of their program was based on like God can fix everything.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't really need a prescription when you could just pray about it. Like, to each their own. Everybody has their own beliefs, but I personally am not religious, especially after being there. So, like, hearing that was gonna fix me versus something that was more science based was a little hard at the time. They did also force me into the Gardasil vaccination.
What is that for people that don't know?
It's like the HPV vaccine.
Okay.
And there's a series, back then at least, there was a series of 3 shots, and they made me take the first 2, and then I got taken out of that program before I got the 3rd one. So I never ended up getting the 3rd one. But they had told me my parents wanted me to do it. And then when I told my parents about it later, they were like, "Yeah, we had no idea about any of that." So,
It's crazy.
yeah.
When they took you off the medications, did they do it cold turkey, just all of a sudden, abruptly, or did they wean you off?
I was cold turkey.
That's what I
And
thought.
like, especially with the birth control, because they're like, "Well, you can't look at boys here or talk to boys here, so you don't really need it." And I used it for like more than just actual birth control, like the other things that it can help with. So going cold turkey just messed up my body for a good couple of years after that, before I was able to go back on it. And then the antidepressant, being cold turkey, was not great, but um, I didn't have it as bad as some of the other kids did. Like, they would load a lot of the girls up on Seroquel.
Yep, that's
Yeah. To the point where they wouldn't know who they were or where they were. So that, like, I was a sheltered kid from a small town. Like, I didn't know any of this stuff before I went there. And like, watching these girls, like, one girl hid under her bed and was convinced that the dorm was on fire and she was gonna die, and like freaked out on Seroquel. Um, there was another girl who like thought there was demons on her because she was so medicated, and like would just scream, like, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
okay. Did they make you do any like workout sessions or anything like that, like strenuous? Like, Lilith, no, knock it off. Come on. You're messing with shit because I'm doing an interview. Come on. Okay. But yeah, did they make you do any like grueling workouts or exercises while you were there?
I don't really remember anything like that.
Okay.
I just remember like the manual labor kind of stuff, like mowing and all of that we had to do.
I guess that could be looked at as like kind of strenuous activity. So.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't really use it as like a punishment from what I can remember. They were more about like putting you on restriction and things like that for punishment, but like I just remember we had these push mowers and they were janky and probably not super safe, and half the girls didn't know how to use them. So, um, yeah, that was most of what we did was like yard work and stuff.
Okay. And how are you now? Like how are you nowadays?
Oh, that is a loaded question. Um, it depends on the day, if I'm being really honest. Like, um, surviving, I think, is a good way to describe it. Like especially for those years that I wasn't in therapy and didn't know what was wrong with me.
Mhm.
Uh, it's helped. I've gotten in with a really good therapist the last couple of years who finally told me I had complex PTSD. Um, so working through that with her has helped a little bit, but clearly I have a long way to go. Like just got out of an abusive relationship and marriage and having to co-parent with that person and being estranged from family and still having to deal with them, like trying to get involved with my life in not great ways. So yeah, I don't really know how to answer that, if
Okay.
I'm being really honest. Like,
Okay. Okay, that's fine.
yeah.
That's fair. Um, if you could go back in a time machine and not go through through that program, would you do it and why?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
Um, like I feel like those programs steal a lot of who you are. And like even if you've got issues going into there, like they just make it worse. And they steal the any good that you have in you. Um, at least in my case, like I was super outgoing before I went in there. I was a good kid. Like I didn't drink or smoke or anything. The only bad thing I did was sneak around with my boyfriend. Um, and like my work ethic when I got out had suffered because what was the point anymore? You know,
Mhm.
um, I became pretty much a drunk my senior year of high school after being there. Started smoking cigarettes and things like that too, just to cope in any way you could.
Mhm.
Um, and like with it making it hard to exist around other people and have friends and know who you are as a person. Like I would have given my right kidney to never have gone there and had that stolen.
Completely understand. Completely understandable. um, Knowing what you know now, is it your belief that these schools that are still open should be should be fully regulated, or do you think that they should all just be shut down?
Um, I think that some of them have merit, such as the one I went to, the second one that I went to, because they had oversight and like people who are educated in mental health and how to talk to kids and things like that. Those places I think are all right as long as they continue to be regulated. But these places that steal you away in the middle of the night and lock you up and destroy who you are, like absolutely shut them all down. 100%. Like the worst part with those places is that parents don't even know what they're getting into. So like as much as I blame my parents, you can't always blame them for it. It's the system that it is just manipulating everything, and there's no oversight to fix that,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yep. Okay. That's fair. All right. Well, is there anything else you want to touch on about your time or experience, or anything else that you want people to know?
Um, I think the biggest advice I would have for anyone who is struggling with their kids or thinking of sending their kids to a place like this is exhaust every option. I've heard other people who feel similar to me, like that these places don't actually help, and it's like you're throwing your kid away. Is what the feeling is that it gives your kid, and you feel abandoned when you're there, and like people just gave up on you. And there are so many other options out there and so many other things you can try to help your kids if they need it, that you don't have to resort to locking them up. I think a lot of parents forget that because they're scared and they're desperate and they want a quick fix, and that seems to be the easiest thing, is just to, at least they're safe because they're locked up, right? But I mean, you can take your kid to a therapist and it might not work, so try another therapist or try another type of therapy, or like get advice from people who know more than you do and aren't financially tied to these places like so many of them are, where they're going to refer you to these places. Like, do your homework, do your research, listen to your kids. Like, if there's anything that I'm angry about from having to be there, is like no one outside of the program or in the program took 2 seconds to actually listen and understand what any of us were saying. They just wanted to believe we were crappy kids and deserved nothing good. So yeah, that's my soapbox, is just don't do this to your kids. Um, it seems like a quick fix, but you're going to regret it for the rest of your life.
Okay, for sure. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I just want to thank everybody. If you've watched this far in the video, please, please, please make sure you like the video. Leave a comment down below if you're feeling frisky, and make sure that you're subscribed to the channel and hit the notification bell. And yeah, as always, you guys have a wonderful day, night, wherever you guys are, and we'll catch you next time. Mount me up with medicine, raise my fucking pen, instant gratification. I don't wanna feel my pain. Pop me another Zanny bar, I don't wanna remember shit. This is how I used to think. My mind was extremely damaged, shattered into a million pieces. I'm still trying to pick up all the pieces. Shit left me speechless. I tried to